it is always most humane to protect the country's finances in advance to avoid the need for austerity. And that is what we as Conservatives do. We protect the finances, not just so that an accountant can be happy with the balance sheet, but because we care about the health care and the education and the social safety net that we desperately need to protect. That is why we want to protect our finances, and that is why we want to avoid the nasty and ruthless cuts that the Prime Minister has in store for this country if he succeeds in bankrupting the nation's finances. And we've seen this ruthless mathematics under his father, who gave us not just inflation, but stagflation. He was successful at delivering both record highs in inflation and unemployment at exactly the same time. And look at the years of 1980 and 1983. During those years of the Trudeau debt crisis, unemployment and inflation both hit 12% at the same time. That means that we had a misery index of 24. Inflation plus unemployment gives you your misery index. This drove interest rates up to an almost unimaginable 19% a year. I remember those days, Madam Speaker. In fact, some of my earliest memories. I was born in pretty close, actually. Member says I would have been in diapers. I was born in 1979. I just turned 44. And so my earliest memories started to appear around 1982, 83. And I remember the horrible strain and stress my parents faced. Now, there was actually the National Energy Program whereby the Trudeau government demolished the Alberta economy where I was growing up. We were largely protected from that because my folks were teachers, so they didn't lose their jobs, unlike many of the unfortunate but greatly patriotic and courageous Albertans and Saskatchewanians who were hit directly. However, my folks had a few little rental properties that my mother had scrounged and staved to make possible, and we were all hit with the higher interest rates that could not be paid with the rent the tenants were paying. And then we couldn't pay our mortgage, so we had to move to a smaller house. And that period was very stressful. There was massive dislocation. It's no wonder that the misery index reached its highest level, because misery is the best way to describe it. Now, Madam Speaker, some people can't take the misery. And during that time period, the suicide rate reached a record high. In 1983, I would have been 4 years old. The suicide rate hit 14.8% per 100,000 people, an 8% increase from 1980. 7 of the 8 worst years for suicide rates in Canada happened when Pierre Elliott Trudeau was Prime Minister. And that is because people's lives were coming apart. You just imagine, it's not just money. It's not just the desire to have more stuff. It's the shame of coming home to your kids and saying, you can't go on that little camping trip. I'm canceling your hockey. We have to leave this house and move into a tiny little apartment. That's the real human anxiety, the guilt, the pain, the frustration that literally breaks families apart, causes divorce and suicide. People lose hope and everything falls apart. So when I talk about the possibility of a very real debt crisis, when all of these mortgages that were locked in at low rates 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even 1 year ago, I'm not talking about an accounting phenomenon. I'm talking about a human phenomenon, one that we have a duty to avoid. We have a duty now to foretell the dangers that are coming, to protect our country against the ravages that it would mean for our population.